The Galactic Council chamber floated above a dying red star, surrounded by the ships of 1,000 worlds. Inside, the air shimmered with tension. Creatures of every shape and kind filled the vast circular hall. Some had eyes like molten glass, some had none at all. The voices of translators whispered through the chamber as they argued about a single planet, a small blue world known to them only as Earth. For more than 2 centuries, Earth had stayed silent. The Council had sent signals, envoys, drones, and even warships. None had received an answer. For 230 years, humanity had been quiet, ignoring the calls of the galaxy. The Council had grown used to that silence, calling Earth backward, unstable, and unworthy of attention. Until today, without warning, every comm line in the galaxy opened. A voice spoke, calm and human, across every channel. "This is Earth," it said. "We are ready to speak." The word spread faster than light. On thousands of worlds, governments froze. Fleets stopped mid-flight. The Council chamber fell silent as every alien turned toward the great silver doors. No ship had entered orbit. No warp trail had been detected, yet the doors were opening. 3 figures walked in. They looked human, tall, calm, and dressed in simple gray suits. No armor, no weapons, no symbols. The guards raised their rifles but hesitated. No one had seen a human in person for centuries. Rumors said the species had destroyed itself, yet here they were, walking as if they had always belonged. The lead human stopped at the center of the chamber. He had gray eyes and a steady face that showed no fear. His voice carried without a microphone, clear and level. "My name is Marcus Hale," he said. "Ambassador of Earth. We come to answer the Council's summons." The chamber filled with whispers. Some of the alien delegates shouted questions. Others demanded security scans. The Triarch of the Zyth drones, a vast insectoid being whose wings shimmered with data, rose from the center platform. "You come uninvited," the Triarch hissed. "No signal, no ship, no declaration." "Explain your presence," Marcus did not blink. "We were invited centuries ago," he said softly. "We simply took time to prepare our answer." The alien's voice deepened, echoing through the hall. "How did you travel here?" "Our sensors detected nothing." Marcus smiled, the faintest curve of his lips. "You measure distance by space," he said. "We measure it by understanding." The chamber went still. No one understood what he meant. The translators struggled, the machines humming and flickering as if the words themselves were too sharp to translate. Then the hum stopped. Every device went dead. The whispering stopped. Yet everyone still heard him. They did not hear the sound of his voice. They heard the meaning directly in their minds. Panic broke out. Delegates shouted, covering their heads. The Triarch screamed for the guards to act. The guards raised their weapons, but in the same instant every weapon powered down. Lights dimmed. Engines outside the chamber shut off. The air was filled with a low hum that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Marcus stood perfectly still. His 2 companions, a woman named Lyra Voss and a quiet man called Thomas Aaron, did not move either. The silence was heavier than gravity. "You called us primitive," Marcus said quietly.
"That was
premature." The Council members looked at each other, confused and afraid. The great hall, designed to control and intimidate, now felt small. The Triarch tried to regain control, tapping the crystal at the center of its platform. "This is a breach of interstellar law," it cried. "You will surrender your technology and answer to the Council." Marcus looked up at the Triarch, unshaken. "We have no technology to surrender," he said. "Only what we have become." The Triarch demanded proof. It called for the security drones. None came. It called again, but its voice faltered as its own systems froze. The Council's massive network had gone dark. The chamber lights flickered, then returned, dim and cold. One of the delegates, a being made of translucent gas, floated closer to Marcus. "What do you want?" it asked, its voice trembling. "What does Earth want after all this time?" Marcus's gray eyes met the creature's shifting face. "We want nothing from you," he said. "We came because you remembered us wrong. You thought we were asleep. You thought silence meant fear. But silence was our choice." The delegates exchanged nervous glances. One of them, a reptilian envoy with golden scales, stood up. "Your planet was classified as restricted space," it hissed. "No contact allowed. That order came from this Council. How did you break it?" Lyra Voss stepped forward, her voice calm and precise. "You sealed your skies and thought we could not see," she said. "You built walls in the void and thought we could not pass. You were wrong. The reptilian envoy slammed its claws on the table. We are the Council. We govern the galaxy. No single world defies our will. Marcus turned his gaze toward the being and spoke slowly. Then perhaps it is time your will was tested. The air in the chamber shimmered. The holographic maps floating above the center changed. Every council ship in orbit appeared on the display. Then one by one their lights dimmed. Systems offline. Engines dead. Entire fleet silent. You disabled our ships? The Triarch shouted. Impossible. Marcus did not answer. He only said, We are not here to threaten. We are here to remind. The aliens' panic grew. They demanded answers. Demanded to know how Earth had gained such power. Marcus and his team gave none. The silence stretched again. The longer it lasted, the more the Council realized who truly held control. At last, the Triarch leaned forward, its voice trembling despite itself. What did you do during your silence, human? What did your people become? Marcus took a breath, his voice softer now. We listened, he said. We watched your wars, your treaties, your greed. We saw your empires rise and fall. And we learned. You looked outward to conquer. We looked inward to understand, Lyra added quietly. You built your unity on fear. We built ours on memory. The Triarch pounded its limbs on the floor. Arrogant. You think your world can stand against 1,000 others? Thomas Aaron, who had been silent until then, finally spoke. His voice was low and steady. We do not stand against you, he said. We stand apart from you. He raised his hand slightly, and the hologram in the center of the hall shifted again. The image showed the galaxy from above, its spiral arms bright and full. Then faint new points of light appeared, hundreds of them scattered in systems thought uninhabited. Human colonies hidden, silent, and alive. The chamber gasped. Impossible, someone whispered. Those sectors are empty. Marcus's gaze swept across the crowd. We learned to be unseen, he said. For 2 centuries we watched and waited. We saw what this council does to worlds that disagree, so we chose silence. Now we break it. The Triarch's voice cracked with fury. You will not dictate terms here. Marcus looked at it calmly. We will not dictate, he said. We will speak, and when we speak, you will listen. The sound that followed was not a voice but a pulse, deep and resonant, like the heartbeat of the universe. It filled the chamber and echoed through the ships above. It carried meaning that words could not hold. Every creature felt it inside their minds, a surge of memory, of fear, of awe. The pulse stopped and silence returned. Marcus looked around. That is our message, he said softly. That is our proof. The council sat frozen. Even the Triarch said nothing. In the long, heavy silence, Marcus stepped back. We have heard your laws, he said. We have seen your power. Now you will see ours. You will see the truth that silence hides. The 3 humans turned to leave. The guards tried to block their way, but their weapons refused to fire. The massive doors opened on their own. The humans walked out into the corridor, disappearing as quietly as they had come. When the doors closed again, the chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, demanding to know who had allowed this. The Triarch tried to restore order, but its command systems were still frozen. It looked toward the hologram again, Earth's image still glowing faintly at the center. Send scouts, the Triarch ordered. Find their ships. Find their technology. Find something. The command was transmitted through the network, but there was no answer. No signal returned. One by one, every comm light in the council chamber dimmed and went dark. Far below, on the distant blue world that had been silent for 230 years, the oceans reflected the stars. On a high orbital platform above Earth, 1,000 human minds watched the council's confusion through invisible eyes. Marcus stood among them, watching the fading signals. They wanted a voice, he said quietly. Now they will hear it. The other humans said nothing. The stars outside pulsed once, softly like a heartbeat, and the chamber on the other side of the galaxy fell completely silent. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had begun to tremble. The Galactic Council did not sleep that cycle. Every member world demanded answers. Their fleets in orbit were silent, their systems frozen. Engineers tried to restart the engines, but nothing worked. The communication network that held the galaxy together was broken for the first time in centuries. Fear spread like fire through every channel. They had seen 3 humans, unarmed and calm, walk into the council chamber and shut down everything without lifting a finger. No one understood how. No one dared to admit they were afraid. In the private chamber of the Triarch, panic turned to anger. The insectoid leader slammed its claws against the crystal table. "They humiliated us," it hissed to the gathered advisors. "They made the council look weak. We must know how they did it." The advisors exchanged nervous looks. One of them, a tall, silver-skinned being from the Vor Dominion, spoke in a trembling voice. "If they can appear and vanish without ships, if they can silence our fleets, then perhaps they have technology beyond our reach." The Triarch glared. "No species rises that far alone. Someone helped them. Someone broke the quarantine." It turned toward its guards. "Find every world that ever contacted Earth. Every secret transmission. Every old explorer. Someone must know." While the council searched for answers, the humans were already gone. They had left no trace. No ship, no signal. Only silence again. Yet that silence now carried weight. It was no longer ignorance. It was power. Across the galaxy, old records began to surface. Historians searched archives for the last messages from Earth. One name appeared again and again, the Sol War. But the files were corrupted or locked by high-level security. Entire segments of data were missing. Someone had erased history long ago. On a mining world at the edge of council space, a young researcher named Irene found a hidden file deep in the archives. It contained a broken message, barely readable. A distorted human voice said, "They came. They thought we were weak. They were wrong." Then static. The timestamp showed it was from 231 years ago. The message had been deleted right after it was sent. Irene stared at the screen, chills running through her body. She sent the file to the central archives, but it vanished before it could be uploaded. A message appeared on her console. "Access denied by council authority." She tried again. This time the console shut down. When she looked up, 2 council agents were standing in her doorway. She never spoke of it again. Back in the council chamber, rumors spread faster than commands. Some said Earth had discovered a forbidden energy, something older than the council itself. Others whispered that humans had merged with machines or turned into something beyond flesh. No one knew the truth, but the silence between the stars felt heavier every day. Then one morning a signal appeared again. It was weak, simple, and clear. It came from Earth. The message said only, "You erased us. But we remember." The council's leaders met an emergency session. They argued for hours. Some wanted peace. Some wanted war. The Triarch demanded immediate retaliation. "If they can reach us," it said, "they can reach anywhere. We cannot allow this threat to grow." An older alien, the Sarn elder of the Water Clans, spoke softly. "Perhaps we should listen," it said. Perhaps their silence was not an act of war, but of patience. The Triarch turned sharply toward the elder. "Patience is a weapon, and they have used it well." In a hidden part of the council chamber, a small sphere began to glow. It projected a human face, the same man who had stood there days ago. Marcus Hale. His calm eyes looked out at the gathering. He was not there in person, yet his image was so real that many gasped. "You seek to understand," Marcus said. "So we will show you." The lights dimmed and the hologram changed. Images filled the chamber. Ships of strange design burning over Jupiter. Alien fleets fighting in silence. Blinding light covering the solar system. Then nothing. The recordings ended as if cut away. Many in the chamber recognized their own ships, their own banners. It was their fleets that had attacked Earth centuries ago. But no one remembered it. The council had erased it. The Triarch froze. "This is false data," it shouted. "Human lies." Marcus's voice stayed calm. "You erased your defeat, not our memory. You called us dangerous because you feared what you did not understand. You silenced our name, but silence remembers everything." As the hologram faded, thousands of transmissions began to spread across the galaxy. Every world connected to the Council's network received the same message and the same images. Civilizations that had believed the Council's lies now saw the truth. The great powers had tried to conquer Earth and lost. The shock tore through the galaxy like lightning. Trust broke. Member worlds began to question their leaders. In the chaos, Marcus's voice spoke again, reaching every speaker, every mind. "We do not seek revenge. We seek truth. You built your order on silence. Now hear what silence learned." The council tried to stop the transmission, but no system responded. The voice continued, clear and steady. "For 2 centuries you ruled through fear. You told others what they could become. You decided which worlds lived and which were erased. You called us primitive because we did not kneel. So we listened instead. We learned from your mistakes, from your wars, from your arrogance, and when we were ready, we came. The signal cut off. The council chamber was silent. Every screen was black. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, the Sarn elder whispered, "They showed mercy. They could have destroyed us." The Triarch slammed its claws down. "Mercy? They have already destroyed our unity. Look around you. Worlds are rebelling. Fleets are breaking away. They want to join the humans. They think Earth is their savior." Indeed, reports came flooding in. Planets that had been silent under council control now declared independence. They broadcast human symbols, simple circles of light above their cities. They said Earth had spoken for all those who had no voice. The Triarch turned to its commanders. "If the humans want war, they shall have it. Mobilize every fleet, burn their colonies, end their message before it spreads." But when the fleets tried to move, their jump drives failed. Navigation systems went dark. The same strange interference filled their sensors. No one knew what was happening until one of the admirals looked at the star maps and realized something terrifying. The interference was coming from inside the fleets themselves. In every ship, in every data core, there were fragments of human code. The code was old, 200 years old, but alive. Hidden programs that had waited silently until now. No one understood how it got there, but it was everywhere. The Triarch stared at the reports, trembling. "They were inside our systems all along," it said. "Even in our ships, our networks, our cities. They never stopped listening." The chamber lights flickered. A faint voice came through the speakers, soft and calm. "You covered the stars with your arrogance," Marcus said. "We covered them with our eyes." The message ended, but the meaning remained. Every council member knew now that Earth had never been isolated. Humanity had watched every planet, every war, every decision, hidden in the very systems the council had built. Panic became despair. Some demanded surrender. Others still called for war. The Triarch could only watch as the galaxy it once controlled began to fall apart. In the dark halls of the council building, Lyra Voss appeared. No ship had brought her. No alarm had sounded. She simply stood there, quiet and steady. 2 guards raised their weapons, but again they would not fire. She looked at the Triarch. "We gave you a chance to speak," she said, "but you never learned to listen." The Triarch tried to rise, but its strength failed. "What do you want from us?" It rasped. Lyra stepped closer. "Only truth," she said. "And truth cannot be erased." The chamber screens lit up again, showing the fleets that had attacked Earth centuries ago, the same fleets that vanished near Jupiter. The Triarch stared, its wings trembling. "What happened to them?" It whispered. Lyra's answer was simple. "They woke something you were not ready to see." She turned and walked away. The Triarch shouted after her, "What did they find?" "What did you become?" But she did not answer. She faded into the shadows, leaving only her voice behind. "You erased us from your history," she said, "but we never erased you." At that moment, every ship in orbit around the Council's world lost power again. The lights outside the chamber went out, one by one, until only the dying star's red glow remained. The Council's network collapsed completely, messages cut off mid-sentence. The galaxy fell into silence once more. On Earth, in a dark control room buried beneath the lunar surface, Marcus watched the last council transmission fade. The room was filled with quiet hums of machines and human voices whispering through the dark. "They know now," Lyra said beside him. "They remember." Marcus looked toward the blue planet shining through the viewport. "Let them remember," he said. "The silence was our teacher. Now it will be theirs." He placed his hand on the console, and the stars outside flickered as if responding. The signal spread again, quiet, steady, and unstoppable. The message was simple. "We are awake." And across the galaxy, the echo began again. Humanity had spoken, and the universe was listening. The moon base was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the steady rhythm of human breathing. Beneath its silver surface, hundreds of people worked without sleep. The room was filled with glowing screens and silent faces. They were not ordinary people. They were the link, the Aegis network. Through them, Earth spoke and listened across the stars. Marcus Hale stood in the center of the room. His face was calm, but his eyes were focused and sharp. On the screen before him, the galaxy turned slowly, a swirl of light and shadow. Every system the Council once controlled was now in chaos. Worlds had rebelled, Fleets had gone dark and leaders were vanishing. Humanity had not fired a single shot, yet the galaxy was breaking apart. Lyra Voss walked to Marcus's side. "The Council is desperate," she said. "Their fleets are trying to regroup near the core. They want to attack before they lose everything." Marcus nodded slowly. "They still think this is about war," he said. "They haven't learned yet." Behind them, Thomas Aaron studied streams of data flowing through the screens. "They are sending diplomats," he said quietly. "They want to talk." Marcus turned toward him. "Talk?" he repeated. "After 2 centuries of silence, now they want to talk?" Thomas nodded. "They're sending a ship under white flag. They want to meet on Luna Station." Marcus looked thoughtful. "Then let them come," he said. "Let them see what silence made of us." Days later, a single council vessel appeared in orbit above the moon. Its hull was scarred, its engines weak. It carried no weapons, only envoys and guards. When it landed, the hatch opened slowly. The first alien to step out was tall and thin with blue skin that shimmered faintly. Its name was Arenthal, a diplomat from the Var Dominion. Its eyes were full of fear and curiosity. Marcus and Lyra met the envoy in a plain white room. There were no guards, no weapons, only a table and 3 chairs. The alien looked around, confused by the simplicity. "You could have killed us when our ships failed," it said. "Why didn't you?" Marcus answered calmly. "Because death teaches nothing." Aaron looked uneasy. "The Council wants peace," it said. "They are afraid of you." Lyra leaned forward. "Afraid after what they did to us?" Her voice was calm, but her eyes were cold. "They erased our name from their history. They called us dangerous because we refused to obey. And now they remember us only because they're afraid." Aaron hesitated. "The Council made mistakes," it said. "But you have power now that no one understands. If you wanted to, you could destroy everything. Why not end this?" Marcus looked at the alien quietly for a moment. "We don't want destruction," he said. "We want understanding. The galaxy has lived under one voice for too long. It forgot how to listen. We intend to remind it." The alien frowned. "Remind it how?" Marcus turned to the wall. A small section opened, revealing a clear sphere filled with faint light. "This is the resonance field," he said. "It connects thought and matter. It listens to everything alive and answers in kind. We built it from what the silence taught us." Aaron stared at the sphere, fascinated. "You speak of it like it's alive." "It is," Marcus said softly. "In a way." The alien looked unsettled. "If you control something like this, the Council will never stop fearing you." Marcus smiled faintly. "Then they should learn what fear truly is." The meeting ended without agreement. The envoy returned to the Council, shaken and uncertain. The humans watched it leave, silent once more. Back on the Council's homeworld, chaos deepened. Arenthal stood before the Triarch, trying to explain what it had seen. The great insectoid leader paced back and forth, its wings vibrating with rage. "A field that listens?" it hissed. "Impossible," Aaron spoke carefully. "It is real. They have built something beyond our understanding. It connects minds. It can silence fleets without a signal. They said it was born from silence itself." The Triarch slammed its claws on the table. "Then it must be destroyed." But another voice interrupted. The Sarn elder entered the chamber, calm and slow. "Destroy it?" it said softly. "You cannot destroy what is already part of us. Their silence reached everything. We feel it even now." The Triarch turned on the elder. "You side with them?" The elder shook its head. "I side with truth. You erased their history, but they did not erase yours. That is the difference between them and us." Outside, the Council's fleets gathered again. They were smaller now, but their numbers still filled the void. The commanders prepared for war, though none truly believed they would win. They were fighting shadows, an enemy that could appear anywhere and vanish without trace. Meanwhile, in the hidden base under the moon, humanity prepared for something else. The Aegis network was awake. Every human connected through faint threads of light, their thoughts linked for brief moments of unity. They did not speak in words. They shared images, feelings, memories, every fear and hope woven together into one. Marcus stood among them, silent. Lyra watched the streams of light move across the room. "Are we ready?" she asked quietly. Marcus nodded. "They will come soon," he said. "But we will not fight them as they expect." Tomas joined them, carrying a small device shaped like a crystal shard. "The field is expanding," he said. "It's reaching beyond the moon. It's touching the outer colonies." Lyra looked uneasy. Once it spreads, we can't control it. Marcus turned to her. Control was their way, he said. Understanding is ours. That night, the sky above Earth glowed faintly. Every satellite, every ship, every forgotten probe lit up for a single moment, as if waking from a long dream. The signal spread outward, crossing light years in seconds. The resonance field had awakened. Across the galaxy, people felt something strange. On distant worlds, creatures who had never seen humans suddenly stopped and looked to the stars. Soldiers lowered their weapons, feeling an emotion they could not name. It was as if something vast and gentle had touched their minds. The Triarch felt it too. It screamed in anger, trying to block the sensation. "It's in our systems," it shouted. "It's in our minds." Arenthal clutched its head, trembling. "It's not an attack," it said weakly. "It's a message." The Triarch ignored it. "Send the fleets. Destroy their world before this spreads further." But the fleets never reached Earth. The moment they entered jump space, their drives collapsed. Their crews reported visions, memories that weren't their own. Faces of humans they had never met, cities they had never seen. Then the ships vanished, leaving only silence behind. On the moon, Marcus watched the readings. "They tried again," he said quietly. Lyra's voice was soft. "And?" "They saw what we wanted them to see," Marcus answered. "They saw who we are." In the council chamber, panic turned to confusion. Every attempt to fight ended in the same way: silence. Ships vanished. Weapons failed. Soldiers refused to move. And then, as if to mock their fear, messages began appearing on every screen. They were not threats, only words. "We do not seek war. We seek memory." The galaxy forgot what it meant to listen. The silence is not a weapon. It is a mirror. The Triarch tore at the screens, furious. "They are everywhere!" "They are inside our own systems," Arenthal whispered. "Maybe they always were." The chamber went dark. A single light appeared in the air, a small hologram of Marcus Hale. His face was calm as ever. "We offered truth," he said. "You chose fear. Now your fear will teach you," the Triarch screamed. "What are you?" Marcus's voice was quiet. "We are what you made us. The result of your silence, the echo of your arrogance." Then the hologram vanished. The chamber was empty except for the sound of the dying star outside. Back on the moon, Lyra watched as the resonance field stabilized. "They will not stop," she said softly. "Even now they will call us monsters." Marcus turned toward her. "Then let them call us what they wish," he said. "Names mean nothing to silence." He walked to the viewport and looked down at Earth. The planet glowed softly under the moonlight. Cities shimmered with life. For the first time in centuries, the world was united, not by force but by choice. Thomas joined them. "What happens next?" he asked quietly. Marcus smiled faintly. "Now," he said, "they come to us," and he was right. Across the stars, small ships began leaving their home worlds. They were not warships but envoys, representatives of species who had once feared the Council. They followed the faint signal that came from Earth, drawn by something they could not explain. For the first time in galactic history, the others came not to command humanity, but to listen. The galaxy had changed. The Council no longer ruled through fear. Its fleets were broken, its networks silent. The great chamber that had once controlled thousands of worlds was now a hollow shell, half-lit and filled with anger. Many of its member worlds had turned against it. They were tired of lies and control. They wanted to understand what the humans had shown them. They wanted to learn what silence could teach. In the center of the ruined chamber, the Triarch stood alone. Its once bright wings were dull and cracked. Around it, the voices of the remaining delegates echoed, full of confusion and despair. Some demanded peace, others called for revenge, but no one knew who still held power. The Council was falling apart. Outside, entire sectors had already broken free. The stars that once shined with the Council's mark now burned with new symbols, circles of light, the sign of Earth's message. Some saw it as hope, others saw it as a threat. Whole fleets refused to obey the Council's commands. Admirals spoke of joining humanity. Rebellion spread like fire. The Triarch shouted for order, but its voice no longer carried authority. "We cannot let this continue," it cried. "If they control our thoughts, our ships, our minds, then nothing is safe. They will rule us all." A voice from the crowd replied, "Perhaps they already do." The chamber fell silent. The Triarch looked around, searching for the speaker, but no one stepped forward. Every delegate was afraid to speak again. The idea itself was enough to make them tremble. Far away above the moon, Marcus Hale watched the same chaos unfold on a large display. The faces of alien leaders appeared and vanished as they argued. Their worlds were breaking away one by one. Lyra Voss stood beside him, her arms crossed. "They are destroying themselves," she said softly. "We have done nothing, yet they fall apart." Marcus's eyes were calm. "That is what happens when truth meets fear," he said. "They cannot tell which is which." Thomas entered the room carrying a report. "Some worlds have sent messages," he said. "They want to open relations with Earth. They want to leave the Council behind." Lyra nodded. "And the others?" "Preparing for war," Thomas said. "The Council still has fleets. Smaller than before, but enough to cause damage." Marcus sighed. "They still believe power is the only language worth speaking," he said. "Then we must teach them a new one." He turned to the screen and opened a communication line. A faint blue glow filled the room as a dozen alien faces appeared. They represented the new alliance, worlds that had broken from the Council to follow Earth's signal. Some were peaceful races, others warriors tired of endless conflict. They looked at Marcus with hope and fear. He spoke simply. "We did not come to rule you," he said. "We came to show you what freedom feels like. The Council kept you silent because it feared what your voices might create. But silence is not obedience. It is strength. Use it to rebuild, not to destroy." One of the alien leaders, a small being with silver eyes, leaned forward. "And if the Council attacks again?" it asked. "Then they will face their own reflection," Marcus said quietly. "They will fight shadows that listen more than they strike." The meeting ended and the new alliance began to form. Across the stars, new signals moved, peaceful ones carrying words instead of weapons. But the peace was fragile. In the dark corners of the galaxy, the Council's loyal fleets gathered again, preparing for one last stand. Inside the broken Council chamber, the Triarch spoke with its remaining generals. "We will strike first," it said, before they spread their poison any further. The generals hesitated. "Their power cannot be measured," one said. "Our weapons fail when they are near." The Triarch's eyes burned with fury. "Then we will not go near them. We will destroy their world from afar." It turned toward the stars. "Prepare the Eclipse Array," it commanded. "Aim it at Earth." The Eclipse Array was a weapon of legend, a network of stations built around the core of the galaxy, capable of channeling the energy of a dying star. It had never been used. Even the Council feared its power. But now desperation had erased fear. While the weapon charged deep in the moon base, Lyra felt a strange vibration through the floor. She looked up at the screens. "Something's wrong," she said. "Something is moving at the galactic core." Thomas ran calculations. "The energy readings are off the scale," he said. "It's the Council. They're activating the array." Marcus's face hardened. "How long do we have?" "Hours," Thomas said. "Maybe less." Marcus looked at the shimmering sphere in the center of the room, the resonance core. Its soft light pulsed gently, as if alive. "Then it's time," he said. They gathered around the core. The Aegis network began to hum as more humans joined the connection. Light spread through the base, linking every console, every mind. Marcus placed his hand on the core. "We do not destroy," he whispered. "We understand." The light spread faster, filling the entire station, then the orbit around Earth. The field grew, reaching toward the stars. On distant worlds, people felt a warmth in their minds, a calm that pushed away fear. The resonance field was expanding again, but this time it was awake. At the galactic core, the Eclipse Array came to life. Massive energy arcs flashed between its rings. The weapon locked onto Earth's coordinates. The Triarch stood in the control chamber, trembling with both rage and pride. "When the silence ends," it said, "the stars will belong to us again." But as the weapon fired, something unexpected happened. The beam never reached Earth. It froze mid-space like light caught in glass. Then it bent, slowly, impossibly, turning back toward the core. The array's own power folded upon itself. The explosion was silent but vast. The center of the galaxy lit up brighter than any sun. When the light faded, the array was gone. On Earth, people watched the glow through the night sky. It looked like a new star had been born. In the control room, Thomas whispered, "They tried to destroy us." Marcus nodded. and destroyed themselves instead. The signal from the explosion spread across space, echoing through the resonance field. It carried not death, but memory. In every mind connected to the field, images appeared, memories from centuries ago. The war they had forgotten, the fleets that vanished near Jupiter, the humans who chose silence rather than revenge, the truth that had been erased. Across the galaxy, beings of all kinds saw the same vision. They saw what humanity had endured and what it had become. Many wept without knowing why. Back on the Council's homeworld, Arenthal watched the vision too. It saw the Triarch's arrogance, the wars, the lies, and finally the silence that followed. When the vision ended, Aren stood in the ruins of the command hall. The Triarch was gone, consumed by its own weapon. The Council was finished. Aren opened a communication line to Earth. The image of Marcus appeared. "It's over," Aren said quietly. "The Council is gone. The core has collapsed." Marcus looked calm. "The Council was never the enemy," he said. "Fear was." Aren nodded slowly. "Then what happens now?" Marcus's eyes softened. "Now we rebuild," he said. Together, the connection ended, but the meaning remained. Across the stars, the remaining worlds began to speak, not through weapons or orders, but through understanding. Old enemies reached out to one another. The resonance field connected them all, not by force, but by shared memory. On the moon, Lyra stood beside Marcus, watching the stars. "You knew this would happen," she said quietly. "You knew they would destroy themselves." Marcus nodded. "It was never about destroying," he said. "It was about showing them who they were." She looked at him. "And who are we now?" He smiled faintly. "Human," he said. "Still human." They stood in silence, watching the galaxy flicker like a sea of lights. Somewhere out there, the remnants of the Council drifted in the dark, broken and lost. But elsewhere, life began again. Worlds that had once been silent now spoke with their own voices. And above them all, Earth's quiet signal continued to hum, not as a threat, but as a reminder. The silence had taught humanity more than any war could. It had taught them patience, unity, and the power of understanding. And now, as the galaxy began to rebuild, that same silence carried a new message. A promise whispered through the stars. "We listened. Now we will help you here." Marcus looked up one last time at the glowing sky. "They thought silence was weakness," he said softly. "They never understood that silence was strength." The moon-based lights dimmed as the resonance core pulsed one last time, spreading calm through every corner of space. The war was over. The noise of fear was gone, and in its place the quiet voice of humanity echoed across the stars. The Council's world drifted in silence. Its once bright cities were now dim and cracked. Towers that had stood for 1,000 years leaned under their own weight. The great chamber floated in orbit, a half-empty shell of what it once was. The stars outside flickered like dying candles. Only a few lights remained, signals from ships that had refused to accept that it was all over. Marcus Hale stepped into the old council chamber. Dust and ash floated in the thin air. His boots made no sound as he crossed the long floor. The chamber had once been filled with alien voices, arguments, and pride. Now it was quiet. He looked at the round table in the center, where once the Triarch had ruled. A broken symbol lay there, cracked through the middle. He touched it softly, then looked up as Lyra Voss entered behind him. "They are gone," she said. "The last of their fleets surrendered. Some worlds want peace. Others still don't understand what happened." Marcus nodded. "They will in time," he said. "Understanding takes longer than victory." Outside the chamber's glass wall, the galaxy turned slowly. Far away, the light of the destroyed array still shimmered near the core. It looked calm now, like a wound closing after centuries of pain. Lyra stood beside him. "Do you think they will forgive us?" she asked quietly. Marcus looked at her. "Forgiveness is not for us to ask," he said. "It is for them to learn." On the moon base, Thomas watched the signals from across the galaxy. New transmissions came every hour. Messages of peace, curiosity, confusion, and fear. Entire worlds that had never spoken to each other before now shared words through the resonance field. It was not perfect. Some argued, some distrusted, but it was more than the council had ever allowed. "People are talking," Thomas said over the comm. "Some say the humans have become gods. Others say we are ghosts." Marcus's voice replied calmly, "We are neither. We are listeners." For the first time in history, Earth had no enemies, yet Marcus felt no victory, only quiet responsibility. The power they carried, the resonance core, was beyond anything any species had known. It had connected minds across light years, changed the course of history, and broken the order of the galaxy, but it could also destroy everything if used with pride. Later that night, Marcus stood in the open space near the resonance core. Its light was soft now, not the blinding glow it once had. The hum of energy filled the room like a heartbeat. He placed his hand on the surface again. He remembered the day it had first been created, built not as a weapon but as a way to understand. He had never imagined it would end wars. Lyra joined him. "We should tell them what comes next," she said. Marcus smiled faintly. "Do you know what comes next?" She shook her head. "No, but they need to believe there is something after silence." Marcus looked at the stars through the observation window. "Then we will show them," he said. He sent a signal. Across the galaxy, the resonance field shimmered once again. Every being who had once connected to it felt a sudden calm and heard a voice. Not through translation, not through sound, but directly in their thoughts. It was simple, human, and filled with warmth. "We were silent so we could learn what it means to speak," Marcus said through the field. "Now it is your turn. The galaxy no longer belongs to one council or one world. It belongs to all who have the courage to listen." The message spread faster than light, touching every world. It carried not power but understanding. Even those who feared Earth felt something gentle in the words. On distant planets, leaders paused their arguments. Children looked up at the sky. Soldiers lowered their weapons. For a moment, the galaxy shared the same thought: peace. On the Council's old world, survivors stepped from their shelters and looked at the sky. They saw the stars pulse in slow rhythm, each light responding to the signal. Some wept, others fell to their knees. They had spent centuries believing that silence meant weakness. Now they saw that silence could hold more strength than all their weapons. Lyra watched the reaction from the base. "Do you think they understand?" she asked. Marcus nodded slowly. "They don't have to understand everything," he said. "Only enough to stop repeating what broke them." Days turned to weeks. The council systems were rebuilt not as rulers but as caretakers. Each world now had a voice in a new circle, a loose alliance called the Conquered. It was not ruled by fear but by conversation. The humans helped guide it not as masters but as partners. Still, not everyone trusted them. Some feared that Earth could one day control the galaxy completely. Some whispered that humanity's silence had changed them into something more than flesh. But whenever anyone tried to attack or threaten, their weapons simply stopped working, and a calm voice would speak in their minds: "We are not your enemy." In time, even the most fearful began to let go. Marcus and Lyra were invited to the first gathering of the new Concord. It was held on a neutral world, a place that had once been used for trade and now stood as a symbol of unity. When they arrived, hundreds of beings filled the wide dome, different shapes, colors, and voices. Yet when Marcus entered, all fell silent. They had never seen a human in person before. He walked to the center and spoke simply. "We do not come to lead," he said. "We come to remind you what you already know. You do not need us to tell you what peace looks like. You only need to remember what silence taught you." The room stayed quiet for a long moment, then one by one the delegates began to speak. Not to him, but to each other. They spoke of rebuilding, of new trade, of shared science and understanding. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was speaking without fear. After the meeting, Lyra stood outside and watched the twin suns set over the horizon. "It feels strange," she said. "After so much silence, hearing so many voices." Marcus smiled. "That's how it should be," he said. "Silence was our lesson. Speech is theirs." She looked at him. "Will they ever forget?" He shook his head. "Not if we keep listening." Time passed. The light from Earth reached farther than ever before. Ships from other worlds visited its orbit, not as conquerors but as guests. Humanity shared what it had learned, but never everything. Some knowledge remained quiet deep within the resonance core. Not secrets of power, but of restraint. Marcus spent his last years teaching young diplomats, not about technology or tactics, but about patience. He often told them, "When you have the power to destroy, the greatest strength is to stay silent." When he died, his body was buried on the moon, facing Earth. The resonance core dimmed for a day in tribute. Lyra continued his work, speaking to the conquered and reminding them of what humanity had done and why. Generations passed. The story of Earth's silence became legend. Some said humans had vanished into light. Others believed they still watched over the stars. The truth no longer mattered. What mattered was that the galaxy had changed forever. One quiet night long after Marcus and Lyra were gone, the resonance field pulsed again. A new signal spread, soft, almost like a heartbeat. Across distant worlds, beings felt it in their minds. It was not a message of command or fear. It was a simple phrase, clear and human. "We are still listening." The stars responded in silence, their light flickering gently, as if answering. And in that quiet exchange, the galaxy found peace once more. Far above, the Earth turned slowly in the dark, calm and blue. It had spoken once and changed the galaxy. Now it needed no words. Its silence was enough. The story of its voice would live forever, carried by the minds it had touched, echoing softly through time. Humanity had learned the truth that the Council never could, that sometimes, to be heard across the universe, you do not need to shout. You only need to wait, and so the galaxy kept listening. The silence of Earth remained, not empty, not lost, but full of meaning. It was the sound of peace, the final lesson of a world that had waited 230 years to speak, and when it finally did, the galaxy shattered and was born again in light.